Recently on a video that we did with Woodworking with Wes, we showed you this door at the end of the video and told you that we would be doing a video to show you how to do it. Now, it was a cerusing video. We'd been cerusing some golden oak refinished doors. This is a brand new door. This is Alder, knotty Alder, but it's also a ceruse finish. When you get all done with it, it looks very rustic, gives it almost a weathered look, and we're going to show you how you do this all the way through, step by step. Let's get started. We've milled out our stiles and rails and panel. Here's our panel. We've got it ready to go. Our stiles and rails are all grooved, ready to put together. These are the stiles, these are the rails. Watch our video on how to build a shaker door. That'll show you what the processes we had to go through to make the stiles and rails and panel. But let's just go ahead and get started. We're going to ceruse this door with our Makita wheel sander. One of the reasons I would like to use the wheel sander on this door especially, this is a nylon wheel instead of a wire brush that we've been using on some of our golden oak ceruses. The reason being, this is a softer wood and we don't want to have the hard scratch that a wire brush would do. A nylon brush would give it a little softer texture. We still want it to have that texture. We still want it to have that so that it picks up the glaze. When we get ready, you can see how we do that, but we just are going to do it with the nylon brush wheel sander to give it a little softer view. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Panel first, then assemble the door. We're all done using our Makita wheel sander to texture the face of our panel. You can't see the texture, but you can feel as you rub your hand across it that it's got a nice textured feel to it. It's raised the grain. Now we're using Rustic Alder so that our knots will show up, and that will kind of highlight the glazing process as we go through. That'll kind of make those knots stand out and give it a real rustic look, which is what we're after on this particular ceruse. Next project, or the next part of this project, is to glue the door together. In gluing our door together, we have our, like I say, we have our stiles and rails all grooved and ready to go. We have our panel cut to size. Because we are using a solid wood panel, we need to use the little space balls that I've shown you before. That they're called space balls because they create a space around your panel for it to expand and contract as the door is glued up. You don't glue in your panel, you glue the stiles and rails together at the ends, but your panel just floats so that it can expand and contract with humidity, and that's what the space balls are for, is to allow that expansion and contraction and still hold the panel centered in your door. Let's go ahead and glue up, get that part taken care of. There's our door all glued up. Didn't want to cooperate for a minute, but we got her. We'll let that dry now. Get ready to sand it out. We've completed putting our door together. You can see we have it all sanded. Here we are with our original one that we're going to try to reproduce. Here is our shaker door. Now we have already textured the panel. In the first part of the video I said we were cerusing the panel. Cerusing is the process all the way through for the paint. Texture is really what we're doing. And we're going to use our Makita wheel sander to now go around the frame and then off to the paint shop. Okay, when I talked about the fact that we had sanded it, when I took it out of the clamps, I took our door out of clamps, I ran it through our wide belt sander and flat sanded it, and then I just put an 1/8 inch round over edge on it and sanded the edges of the doors, gave it a light sand across the face before we got ready to do our wheel sander. We don't sand after our wheel sander. That gives us our texture as best we can, but we're ready now to go to the paint shop. We're going to give this a coat of white paint. That's the next part of the formula, is to give it a coat of white paint, and then back here to the bench to distress our ceruse or our texture so that the ceruse will come through. Let's go to the paint shop. We're back from the paint shop now. We've painted our door white. You can see some of the distressing from the knotty alder. I wanted to refer back to a video that we did a few weeks ago about some different types of wood and how it's cerused. This is a piece of alder, as is this door. And so we did a ceruse of just this, the way that I've been doing the golden oak ceruse. We texture our piece of wood, we sprayed it with white, we put a little black glaze on it, and this is what we ended up with. Now, if we were to take a sanding sponge and just lightly sand this white paint, we would end up with something similar to this. But what we're going to do in order to end up with our heavy distress rustic look, we're going to get a little more aggressive in our sanding and use a palm sander and sand through and really kind of rough up this white paint a little bit so that it takes on more glaze, gives us a better finish. So let's just watch as we do that. We're now going to take a sanding sponge and go through and smooth this all out now so that it's ready for glaze, and then we're off to the paint shop for the glaze part. We have our sanding that we were doing on our white paint all done, ready. I just wanted to give you a little heads up. Wait for your paint to dry really good. I tried to hurry and it loaded up my sanding discs on my sander. Make sure your paint's good and dry, save you a little time. But we're ready to go over and get some glaze on this, make it look like our distressed door. This is going to give a real weathered look on this Ceruse. I kind of like it. Off to the paint shop. We're getting ready to do our glazing. We'll be using a brush on this glazing because we want to be able to get down into the knots and crevices and things like that we're of our Rustic. We're going to glaze this and wipe it down. We're not going to sand after we get our glaze done and it dries like we do on some of our cerusing of golden oak. We're going to let the glaze be part of the color on even the white parts. So let's go ahead and get started, walk around on it and do the glaze and see how we end up. We're going to be using a little mix of glaze. This is not the brown that you saw in the sample. This is kind of a grayish brown. It's a color that I like and we're going to try that. We're going to do our panel next so that we can be able to hold on to the frame while we wipe it down. We want to make sure we get plenty of glaze on the profile, the edge here on our panel so that we get everything covered. And then as we glaze the middle of it here, we want to make sure we get enough glaze, plenty of glaze, to get down into all the little knots and holes and things like that that are created by the rustic alder wood that we have used. That's really one of the things that's going to give this a real rustic appearance. This would be so cool for a piece of rustic furniture. Oh, this would be so nice, this look. Having your knots show through and having the grain of the wood showing by the Ceruse process. Now, like I say, we're not going to be sanding, so we got to make sure we clean our glaze really good. We want to leave a little bit in the corners to highlight our profile, but mostly we want to have it wiped down good and clean. Wow, that has a real weathered look. That is so cool. Now I want to point something out. I did something wrong, and part of what I showed you over on the workbench where my sandpaper loaded up and it had the big globs on there. If you get in here close, you'll notice that we have some inconsistencies. Part of that is the paint that was globbing up on my sanding disc stuck to my paint that I was doing and really showed up. So if I were doing this for anything other than a color sample, if this was a client situation, or I was doing a nice piece of furniture for myself or for a sale, I would have to get back and do better on that, because that would be unacceptable in a final product that I would let go to my customer or even to have in my own home. But I wanted to show that just so that's a mistake I made on this deal by trying to hurry it along to get the video done. Don't make that mistake. Make sure your paint dries really good. And then we're waiting now for the glaze to dry for a top coat. Well, we've completed our Alder door. I don't think we should call it Ceruse. I think we should call this a rustic door. Very rustic looking, weathered. Weathered, there's a great word right there. It's really kind of a neat finish, be real fun to do. This would be a cool project for a piece of furniture or maybe for a cabin, something like that. This is a great look for something like that. It's been fun, and it's been something that I've never done before, so it was fun to see how it turned out. You can have fun in your workshop too. Fun doing finishes. Fun trying something new. Fun finding out what it's going to look like when you get all done and you didn't plan on it. And we'll have some fun next time on Woodworking with Wes.